Hey there, comic book fans. I'm back from the comic shop again this week, where I got, what did I get here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comics. 4 new ones and a couple of True Believers reprints. We're continuing with Conan month in True Believers. So here's True Believers number 1. I think this is issue 17. Hold on. I just read True Believers Conan 1 and 4 I read this morning. Really good stuff. I realized I hadn't read these early Barry Smith issues in a long time. And I never read them much. I mean, they didn't reprint the early Conans a lot back when I was reading Conan. So I only read them really once they came out, like, I think the black and white editions I read them in first. And like Dark Horse printed them. I read them there. But I had a really fun time reading these old ones. But this is a Gil Kane one from Conan 17. And the other one I got is Swords in the Night. This is a Barry Windsor Smith one, Conan 23. Nice looking stuff here. Some of the more mature Barry Smith. And I have to say, I got my weekly email from my comic shop that has the list of all the stuff to order on final order cutoff, and they had a couple more True Believers Conans that are coming out in a couple of weeks. And one of the ones they were reprinting was Conan 187, and I have no idea why they'd reprint Conan. I think I bought Conan from like issues maybe 85 or 90. Until issues, I don't know, 150, so I never, 187. I'm like, why would they reprint Conan 187? I have no idea, but I'm going to find out because I put it on my list for $1. So there's a couple of True Believers. Then we've got Birthright, issue number 35. The Birthright story continues. Last we knew, the two brothers were fighting each other. The older and younger brother, the one went off and grew even older and learned magic on a magical world. And there we go. There's the younger brother with his magical superpowers at the moment. So, and that's the cover too. That's the I guess you'd call him he was on a planet or a realm or dimension where you aged it faster than in ours. So there's his teenage. He's like 10, I think, or 12, and he's no grown man now, but he left our world when he was 10 or something. So Birthright's a good book. If you like a sort of magical adventure story, that's the one for you. Then we've got Strangers in Paradise 25, number 9. And this has turned into a real Terry Moore crossover fest. Because last issue, the Strangers in Paradise, last issue had Rachel from Rachel Rising in it, the woman from Echo, and one other, I can't remember which others. Oh, and the woman from the story about the woman and the gorilla. All of a sudden I can't remember the name of it, but she was in it too. So this is a real crossover fest of those issues, and at the end of last issue, Lilith from Rachel Rising showed up. There's Lilith walking on the snow. It ended with a shot of Lilith coming to me. So Strangers in Paradise, we now all exist in the same world with all of his other stories. So I think that's pretty cool. We got a Terry Moore verse crossover with this series. So check it out. Terry Moore stuff is always good. Then this one I think got shorted on me. It came out a few weeks ago. Hillbilly Red Eyes, Witchery from Beyond. Looks like I got some bent corners on it too. That's the one thing about getting indie books that can be annoying when your shop only gets 1 or 2 or 3 copies in. Sometimes Diamond sends you the crappiest copies. And when they're shorted and then they send it 2 weeks later, you're like, I get the crappy copy. But it's not too crappy. It's really, there's a bent corner there. The bent corner there. I could probably flatten them out a little bit, as if it really, unless I bent them. I'm now looking at a couple other copies. How did I bend them? I don't know. But anyway, Hillbilly, Red-Eyed Witchery from Beyond, Part 3 of 4, and What's his name? Eric Powell isn't drawing this one. Who is? Jake Smith. No. Oh, this is written and drawn by Eric Powell. Okay. Yeah, I don't think he drew the first two. So, with art assist by who drew? Because this was a mini series not drawn by Eric Powell. Interesting. Now it is. And the last thing we've got, double sized but only single priced, Criminal #1. And this is a continuation of Criminal. Matter of fact, Criminal's interesting to me that I have it, and that I collected these ones in trade paperback. It's funny because I mostly buy comics, but somewhere around the late 20aughts, maybe 2008 to 2011, I was really struggling to find single issues to buy. It wasn't until sort of 2012 when Image started putting out a ton of stuff that was cool, including the Fade Away. Was that the Fade Away? No, Fatale was the first one from these guys. And about the time Saga came out, though Fatale was out a little earlier, that's when all of a sudden there was a flood of comics I liked. But before then, there wasn't a lot, and I was buying trade paperbacks of stuff to try out. And that's when Criminal first came out, and it came out in Marvel's Icon line. And I did not like, the secret ingredient is crime. And I did not like Marvel's Icon line kind of as comics. They were just kind of cheaply thrown together. I think they had that Icon line just for some of the writers they had under contract so they could continue like Ed Brubaker at the time, and what's his name? Oh God, all of a sudden I can't remember his name now. The big guy who's writing Superman now, who now has his line with DC. You all know his name. But anyway, Brian Michael Bendis, that guy. He had his Icon stuff too, but I just thought they were terribly done in terms of the production value of the comics. The paper was thin, there was no editorial content, there was barely any front design on them or anything. So I ended up buying those in trade paperbacks. So I ended up, I think there's 5 Criminal trade paperbacks, but I'm glad to be back to the single issues because I like the single issues. And though I missed out on, what was it, the Werewolf Criminal. They put out I think last year or the year before, a magazine-sized issue of Criminal that was like a werewolf, old 70s magazine knockoff. I'd gotten the one before, but somehow I'd missed that one. But I'm back with the series. I'll see how well I like. Criminal, it might be my least favorite of the Brubaker and Phillips stuff, but it's still good. I still like it because they're all about characters in the criminal world. And sometimes the criminal world is just mean and nasty, and it's hard to find someone to root for or to feel for. So we'll see how this goes. But hold on one second. This was the last thing I got for him, and it was very good. Got this at Christmas. Showed you this at Christmas time, but I finally read it. My heroes have always been junkies. Kind of afraid of there'd be no one to root for in this too, but there was. But a graphic novel, nice color, more Brubaker and Phillips. So I must say, I like a nice hardcover. I like reading things in comic book form. So I'm glad Brubaker and Phillips are back with something, and can't wait to read that one. Meanwhile, we'll show you a little artwork for all you cat lovers out there. Oh, it's in the sun. This is I did a cat drawing. This is my sort of modern art. There's our cat face. Op art. Sort of cat action going on here. Lots of sharp lines. I'm a dog person, but occasionally I like drawing cats. I think cats make for good drawings. There you go, little ink, little brush. It's mostly brush and ink. Also some marker and stuff in here. All these straight lines are marker, and all these lines in here are brush. So a little bit of cat work for you, a little bit of comic books, and you guys all have a good week out there.